Hello everyone, my name is Miss Bridget and I am here today to bring you a special story time right before Christmas. That's right, today we are reading How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. If you couldn't tell, I love this book and I'm very excited to share it with you today. Let's dive into How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And I wanted to show you, I have a very cool book because look, his heart grows. It's like magic. Isn't that cool? Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why, no one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may be that his heart was 2 sizes too small. For whatever reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour Grinch frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Christmas is tomorrow, it's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must stop this Christmas from coming, for tomorrow he knew. All the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early and they'd rush to their toys. And then the noise, oh the noise. That was the one thing he hated, the noise. Then the Who's young and old would sit down to a feast and they'd feast and they'd feast and they'd feast. They'd feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. There they are at their nice table. And then they did something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing and they'd sing and they'd sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why? For 53 years, I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat. Then he made up a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And then he chuckled and chuckled. What a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I'll look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max and took up some red thread and tied a big horn on top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh and he hitched up old Max. The Grinch said, giddy up, and the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Whos lay a snooze in their town. All the windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the Whos were dreaming of sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, this is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out, the fireplace flew, where the little Who's stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. And why that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee, and now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree, and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast, and he saw a small Who. Cindy Lou Who, who was no bigger than two. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Santa Claus lied, "there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it to the workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there and I'll bring it down here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head. He got her a drink and sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went up the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for the fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On the walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb too small for even a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who houses, leaving crumbs much too small for other Who's mouses. It was 1/4 dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsel, the trimming and trappings. 3,000 feet up on the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. "Pooh-pooh to the Who's," he was grinchiously humming. "They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will cry, boo-hoo." "There's a noise," grinned the Grinch, "that I must simply hear." So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. He did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. This sound sounded merry. It couldn't be. It was very merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came all the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say, the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel so quite tight, he whizzed with his load through the cold morning light. Then he brought back the toys and the food for the feast, and he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. And that is the end of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. My friends, thank you so much for joining me for this special holiday story time. I hope you have an excellent Christmas with your family, and I will see you all next year in 2021. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.